Over many decades, our land was surviving on natural trees, but with time, most of the local trees were cut. So our local trees have been under pressure from every side, either it is farming, urbanization, and so farmer-managed natural regeneration brings us back to our roots.
I'm really excited as a young farmer, as a young practitioner in my community, bringing friends of FMNR in our community to educate 40 lead trainers at the Climate Change Training Center. These 40 TOTs will go back to the community and retrain the community on FMNR practices.
Mua Hills is a water catchment area, though not gazetted as one. During the colonial times, there were lots of big trees that had been planted. But as the indigenous communities were settled in, it became very hard for them to fend for themselves, and as a result, they ended up cutting the trees for firewood because that was the only source of income that they could get. And as a result, the land started getting degraded.
Coming here, at least Mua was different from what we have now. The vegetation was good, and some of us destroyed the vegetation to accommodate exotic trees.
When we bought this farm in 2019, we came here and the environment was really degraded. Rich soil had been taken away, there were gullies, and we really thought, what can we do when we were buying this land? Because everyone was thinking that land is not worth it to buy.
This is what really caused us to think through and ask ourselves, how do we restore the land? How do we ensure that we can provide food for the communities? And that's how Greening Mua Environmental Initiative was born.
What we as friends of FMNR are coming in is to integrate their knowledge and their success in growing trees, agroforestry, fruit trees. They have done a wonderful job in networking the women, the youth, the community at large, and bringing their passion into growing trees. But the question now we want to ask and discuss with them is, how do we also bring back what we have lost?
Leo nimefunzwa how to prune.
Na hiyo miti mukiprune itakuwa kuni, wamama watasaidika, itakuwa mbolea kwa mashamba yetu.
I wish I had that knowledge of which I gained from FMNR, because I would have integrated, at least spare some of the indigenous trees, which were mostly medicinal, as I am told. But thank God, at least with the visit, I'm now informed and I'll be able to preserve the current indigenous trees and even to introduce more to replace those which we did destroy.
It's been a good exercise. I'm grateful that it's been inclusive. Most of these opportunities tend to fare with the older generation, or it seems that it's only the older generation that has an interest in cultivating, farming, or anything that involves climate change.
One thing we learned in FMNR was the need assessment. And during that need assessment, groups came together and pinpointed schools as a key pillar on ensuring that this FMNR practices information is disseminated to our homes. Kids are really ready to launch FMNR Eco Clubs. These clubs will come way along in helping the next generation pass down this information. It's called intergenerational dialogue.
Today we were lucky to get a success story of a farmer who has successfully undertaken FMNR on his farm. This is interesting because the farmer had no prior knowledge of what he was doing was FMNR.
Hii practice ukiona miti kama hizi nilianza kuwacha 2015. Ndio nilianza hii, nikaanza kupanda nyasi kidogo kidogo nikilima. Hapa nilikuwa napanda nyasi Boma Road, Wakati hii miti imekuwa kubwa hivi, imeiweka sheti ikawa nikawachana naye. Sasa nataka hizi miti ziwe kubwa. Ndio unaona huku mahali hiyo makao unaona inachomwa ni hizi branches, na ile miti ilikuwa karibu na zingine sana ikatolewa. Kianza hiyo maneno sikuwa najua hiyo FMNR, nilianza tu niliona hii miti kutunza ni mzuri na nikaanzana naye, na ukiangalia inakaa smart kuliko hizi tumepanda. Hii nimepewa na GMEI, lakini ukiangalia hizi za hapa na hii hakuna ile imepandwa na mtu.
We came and created awareness and sensitization. Most of the community members realized that this is a practice that was already happening and they were doing it before, but they needed to improve on the practices so that they can be able to improve the productivity of their farms and their lands.
Throughout the training, we had days where we'd recap what we studied the previous day, and they will share what they've studied. And I remember at one point in class where they were discussing type of trees that they have in their own farms, and others had medicinal trees, others had trees for other functions, and I think that was really, really amazing. Another interesting part for me was when we were trying to get a name, and there were so many ideas.
Resurrection.
Jana mnakumbuka tukitafuta meaning ya regeneration.
Yeah.
This is the word. This is the word. Kusocha. This is the word.
Kusocha. 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 Mua. Kusocha. Kusocha. The kids are ready to future Mua, to future their homes, and to future their pockets. Come back here 1 year from now, 2 years from now, and see the vision that FMNR has built.
I've seen the potential of FMNR, whereby it is cost effective, it is a way of combating desertification, land degradation, soil erosion, and it has also potential of strengthening the food system and also enriching the biodiversity.
It's very important for us as a government that we embrace the FMNR.
We have targets in Kenya. The president has been vocal about the 15 billion tree planting initiative. That is an ambitious plan. We also have resolutions that came from the Africa Climate Summit, the UN Decade Ecosystem Restoration Plans. So how do we get FMNR to be part of the conversation?
Communities do play a huge role when it comes to this. So as much as we are having our global conversations in our own spaces, we need to remember that the action do not happen in those global spaces, in those rooms. Action is what is done on ground. So there is a need for us to have the community, so that as much as we speak in global spaces, we are also actioning it together at home.
We also have the chance to actually be part of the regreening agenda in Africa, the Afri 100, and actually working to help achieve, the 32% forest cover by Kenya by the year 2030. And we can achieve the Global Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, by 2030, the Africa Agenda 2063 that talks about the Africa that we want, an Africa that is prosperous, an Africa that is empowered, and an Africa that invests and implements out of the richness of our biodiversity and the availability of our rich mineral resources in the continent.